why Facebook and Google will pay you for your time. So Facebook and Google are already paying you for your time and attention through providing a free service. It's a trade-off. You give them your data, basically, which is your time and your content, and whether it be a Google search or whether it be a Facebook post or a Facebook like or a Facebook comment, and they provide you the service for free. And then, they have the advertisers that are supposed to be value added that do the monetization for the most part. So we're moving more and more to a data-centric, but also a data individualized world. Like right now, it's only come into prominence more recently that, all the power that Facebook and Google and other tech giants have with your data, but there's a lot of movement towards giving consumers more control of their data. Not that this is easy to do, but, with emerging technologies such as the blockchain, this will increasingly be the case, unless that's corrupted, but it is moving more in the direction of decentralization and individualized power, because in the Middle Ages, the kings had all the power and the serfs basically had very little, if any, power, and then America broke away from the Soviet Union to have more individual rights. That's why we have an individual constitution and a Bill of Rights. And then in the factories, the bosses had all the power, and it was more centralized. And then in the information age, people have personal computers, and there's more decentralization because one person can't have all the information. The power has to be pushed down into lower levels of the company, so that when you have thousands and hundreds of thousands of employees, especially, so that decisions can be made where the rubber meets the road, and the people that actually have the direct contact with customers can make choices and be empowered. So decentralized is kind of the nature. There's a famous book, The End of Power. Now it used to just be that Walter Cronkite, and a couple others told you the news. Now we have hundreds and hundreds of news channels, thousands and millions of blogs, thousands and maybe probably millions of YouTube news channels of different kinds, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. So things have become much more decentralized in terms of like content, media, information, and I would argue as a result of all of this influence and power. So the trade-off that you get a free service from Facebook and Google was the beginning, but in the future it'll be even more, because they say that time is the most valuable resource. Attention is just an aspect of time. And the reason why time is the most valuable resource is because money, so it's basically in exchange for money for time. So, Facebook is monetizing your time and your attention that you give them through the data that you give them. So time is the most valuable resource, because once a moment of time is spent, it can never be gained again. If $1 is spent, you can always get that $1 back, and you could get multiple dollars, to replace it with. But you can't even get back one moment of your life that has been spent. You can never get it back. So, because there's a limited amount of time, but there is almost, within reason, an infinite amount of money. So as this continues more towards decentralization and time becomes more and more valuable as a result of this, then Facebook and Google are not just going to be able to give you a free service. They're going to have to be able to actually pay you for your time and pay you for your content. There would be no Facebook if the users didn't generate all the content, and there would be no Google if the users didn't generate all the queries, which is used for artificial intelligence. And the reason why I probably didn't explain it well enough, the reason why time is becoming more and more and more valuable is because as information continues to increase through the law of accelerating returns, it's harder and harder and harder to break through, because the more information there is, the more information overload there is, and the harder it is to get people's attention. So as we tend to have like more and more information overload, and more sources of information, and more data, then attention and time becomes like increasingly more and more valuable. And because it's so valuable, companies are going to have to pay you for it, and potentially in the future they'll have to pay you a lot.